Well, here we are again. This is episode 2 of the Fueled by Coffee podcast. I am here today with my good friend John, who I have known for, like 7 years now. We met in freshman year of high school or something like that.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of stuff together. We've played music. We are currently on a Madden tear. That's like our weekly thing. Thrift stores, groceries, and Madden. That's like what we do. But yeah, John's a good friend of mine. He currently plays bass and sings for a band called Food Truck. He also has his own solo stuff that he does. Previously JJ Mack, now it's just John Mackey. You can check him out on SoundCloud. And Food Truck, your guys' stuff is on Bandcamp?
Yeah, it's on everything. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Bandcamp, yeah.
So make sure to go check out all of his work. It's all great stuff. So, John, thank you for joining me here. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, me and Matt collabed a lot in the past. When we first became friends, we kind of, I think what started it was, first off, we were both like Blink-182.
Yes.
And he's definitely a bigger fan than I am, but I'm definitely a huge fan as well.
Yes.
And he took lessons at this place called Sauk Valley Music.
Shout out to Jerry.
Yep, shout out to Jerry. And that's where I took lessons. So I played drums originally. That was my first instrument. And he played guitar. And so then we were like, oh, we should hang out because we got along. Mm-hmm. And we also played music. So we were like, why don't we, jam? And so before that point, I had only jammed with so many other guitarists. Like when you're that young, I think we're like 14.
Yep.
And so it was really cool. We would write all these songs, and our little band was called the Pitchback, and yep. I learned a lot through that, really. And
too
it's
bad
weird.
I didn't know how to count at the time.
Yeah, we weren't very good at tempo. Yeah. I was better at tempo because that's really how you read music with drums.
Well, yeah, and being a drummer, like, you have to know that. You
mm-hmm.
know?
But yeah, I mean, I still wasn't. I probably couldn't play to a click as well as I can today.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, that's all stuff you learn with time. But anyway,
so one of the gimmicks I talked about with Aaron last week. It's called Fueled by Coffee. Each week I want to have a different kind of coffee.
Oh yeah.
So last week I just had Keurig coffee. It was just like Giant brand. Today we are sitting here with John's coffee of choice, Dunkin' Donuts. We both got iced coffee. Dunkin', please sponsor me.
Yeah, I drink Dunkin' almost every day, probably like 3 times a week. Jeez. At minimum. There's a Dunkin' by my house. I live in Easton, and I work in New Jersey at a car wash, Shammy Shine. And there's a Dunkin' right there. So it's like everywhere I go. If I'm off, there's a Dunkin' right there. If I'm at work, there's a Dunkin' right there. So they know my order. Both Dunkins know my order. Mostly when I go in, obviously not the drive-through.
Yeah.
But I get iced coffee, cream and sugar, and I get a blueberry shot, which sounds weird.
It is weird.
But almost 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, someone dared me because I was reading the menu, and I was like, blueberry shot? That sounds like gross. And they were like, oh, I dare you to, get that. I'm like, all right. And then it's so good. Like, it's literally amazing. And so now I every time I go to Dunkin', even if it's hot coffee, it's blueberry shot. So
yeah. Nice. So one of the things that I like to do to get the podcast started, a little bit of an icebreaker question. What's going on in the life of John right now? What is something cool or relevant, I guess, that you have to share? Anything comes to mind?
Probably 2 things. First thing is, I already mentioned it, but I work at a car wash. So that's what I've been doing the last year. And this is like my first full-time job. And I'm 22. And I did it college for about a year, and I really didn't like it. And so then that's when I made that commitment to do music basically full-time. And, I joined Food Truck. And, that doesn't really pay the bills right now. So I have to have a full-time job.
Yeah,
and I work at a car wash. But it's actually a really, really cool job, and I'm actually really happy there. And I just got a raise, so I'm happy and content with my car wash job.
Cool.
Which, I don't think most people at surface level are happy with car wash jobs or gas station jobs, but I like it. And I actually like working in Jersey. It's pretty cool. Like, you get to meet a lot of different people and stuff. And, you know, there's a whole stigma about Jersey. People in PA like think Jersey sucks, and then people in New Jersey think PA sucks, but they're pretty similar. Coming from someone who's pretty unbiased.
Yeah, you've said. Yeah,
like they're New Jersey's, the tax is bad. I know that, and you have to be 21 to buy tobacco products, which is kind of weird because in PA you have to be 18. Mm-hmm. And
John has gone to great lengths, like talking in the car. We've had quite a few road trips to New Jersey.
Yeah,
to deliver a drum set. To pick up the drum
that
set.
Was the worst.
And we've had these discussions before. He's talked about, you know, how New Jersey and Pennsylvania are so similar.
They really are.
He sees both worlds regularly, you know.
I do. Yeah, 5 days a week I'm in the other world, if I may say. They do drive a little more aggressive, but I mean, go to Philly. They drive insane there. So it's really just where you're at in the state. So
Philly's just an intense place.
I know. I want to move to Philly. That's another thing. That's a plan. Food truck wants to move to Philly eventually, but you know, we don't know with like time wise because that takes money and
of course,
you know, it all depends on the situation, you know. But the second thing I wanted to say was food trucks hitting the studio again. Well, when is this going to be released?
This will be released not this coming Wednesday. It'll be the day before Thanksgiving, so
okay.
Like 2 weeks.
All right, so we're recording this Sunday, which will be like a week or two before this comes out.
Yeah.
but we're recording 2 new singles, the song called Danger and then the song called Motel Decaf, which is the first song me and Miles like ever wrote, basically.
Cool.
So I'm really, really excited. We're recording with Matt Mulchaney from Shard Studio in Bethlehem.
He's a pretty popular engineer in the area, correct?
Yeah, he's like literally, I cannot say enough good things about him. He's literally the nicest person on the planet, and he's like a father figure. That sounds weird, but he really is. He's just a really good guy, and he literally is one of those producers that just knows how to pull stuff out of you. Like, he makes suggestions.
Very important.
He makes suggestions, but he's not too pushy. He'll literally just give you suggestions, or he even sang on one of our songs. He sang backups, and he's a good singer too. But
that's very important.
But what producer does that? Like, I also understand it's a more local, smaller scene. It's very DIY, but like that was really cool. Well, just all his techniques are really cool.
To like have someone that has that good intuition, you know, for songwriting.
Yeah.
Who, you know, it's like within a band, we've talked about this before. You know, you've said sometimes you go back and forth on things, and you might, you know, kind of, I guess, argue, quote unquote, about like, we should do this, no, we should do this, and people can't really compromise, and maybe like that outside voice is the mediator.
No, that really, really, really helps, because we had stuff like that, because we would go to when we did an EP earlier this year, and we did 5 songs, and the one song wasn't completely finished. All the other songs were already written, but we had this one song that had a lot of momentum and potential, but there were a couple things that weren't finished. There was a solo that wasn't completely finalized, and the chorus, there was a couple little harmonies and stuff that like were pretty much open.
Yeah.
And so, of course, me, Ryan, and Miles are very opinionated, but we're also like brothers, so we like fight a lot.
Yeah.
And Matt Mulchaney's just really good at like being the middle ground, kind of what you're saying. So like he jumps right in and like shows us some of his ideas. Like he'd be like, "Oh, I hear this harmony," and then he'll literally just sing it for you, or he'll get the piano out, like just that kind of stuff. And like we argue a lot, but like we're just that close that it doesn't mean anything. And that's the misconception, because when you tell someone that, like, you're like, yeah, I argue with my friends a lot. You know, people are like,
just sounds dysfunctional.
Sounds bad.
Yeah.
But when you're in a band like almost like Blink-182 or Green Day, like a 3-piece that is very, very close, that's like what happens. That's what you get. You just argue about crazy stuff because you just want the best for the band.
Of course.
And you care so much that sometimes it's really hard to like swallow your pride and compromise. But we've definitely gotten better. When we first started, we would like bicker a lot, and then we get like kind of butthurt.
Yeah.
But now we kind of understand that, like, we're just saying what we want the band to do, and it's not a personal attack on anyone, because it's very hard to open up to other people, show them all your ideas unfiltered, and then have them kind of criticize.
Right.
So, but yeah, food truck is very, very, very close. We are like brothers. We do everything together, and it's awesome. I wouldn't have it any other way. And Matt Mulchaney is a great producer, and we're just going to keep going back to him for, this project, this coming double single, and probably another EP or another album before, whatever our next step is, if we move to Philly or New York or whatever we do next. So then we'll probably move on or something. That would be awesome. But that's all speculation. That's if we get signed. But that's, we'll see.
Hey, man, anything can happen. That's just life, You never know what tomorrow's going to hold. You just got to take it one day at a time. And that's Matthew's life lesson for the day. So we've talked about the car wash. We've talked about music and food truck. I think one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, I kind of touched on it briefly, is the routine that John and I have every single week.
Oh, yeah. We're off. We're off the same day, basically.
Yeah.
So it's Wednesdays. And so we do like a little routine. Yeah.
So one of the things that we started doing is, like, we're both huge football fans. Go Birds.
Yep.
And one of the things that we like to do is just kind of like go out, throw the football around, run around, like exercise basically, because we never really played football in school.
Yeah.
And it's just something fun to do. It keeps you active. It keeps you healthy. And, aside from when I pulled my groin 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. We go a little too hard sometimes.
Yeah.
It's fun, though.
It's fun. And it's like we probably look like two douchebag wannabe football players, but it's like, hey man, if we're having fun, who really cares? That's all that matters. And
no, it's a lot of fun.
So we'll go and do that, and then after that we basically turn into old women. And we will go. John usually has groceries he has to pick up,
so we go to Weiss, which is right by my house.
Shout out to Weiss, sponsor me.
I have a Weiss card, so that's one of the reasons.
And he got me on board, and I now have a Weiss card.
It's nice because you spend like, I don't know, $50 to $100. You get a certain amount. You get like a percentage off of gas, like 10 cents to $1, depending on how much you spend. And I think it resets every 6 to 8 weeks, the point system, or however it works.
This is now turning into a sales pitch for Weiss.
Yeah. No, I really do like Weiss, though. I used to work at Redner's, and that's like across the street. And it's super weird to go somewhere you used to work. So then I kind of started going to Weiss after I had left Redner's.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I kind of like this. Like, they have like that beer section, and their stores like just organized really nice, and like I don't know, say so, there's something like warm about it.
I like their packaging a lot better too.
Yeah, and I love Redner's. Like I won't lie, I still love Redner's. Yeah. But
Redner's is kind of beat though. The one time I came to meet you there at the end of your shift, I walked in and I was like, that was my first experience.
Yeah, but that's because it was empty. It's not a bad store, though.
I mean, I've been to the one in Quakertown as well, and that
one's weird.
That one's really beat.
I've never liked the one in Quakertown. The best one I've ever been to, there's the one on like Airport Road.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That one's really, really nice. It's almost like a Home Depot style where like everything's on these like big, wide metal shelves. And it looked newer. I don't know if it was newer. It's definitely newer than our store because I think the Redner's that I worked at was built in the 50s or 60s.
Right.
And I would assume the other one on Airport Road was probably the 90s or later because it's just organized nice, and I've always had good experience there. But yeah. I'm also not very picky with grocery store stuff. Yeah. So
I was going to add something to that. Moving forward, so we go grocery shopping.
Football.
And we play football. And then normally we go to a thrift store of some kind.
Oh, absolutely.
Either there's one down the street from John that's pretty good. We found some awesome stuff there. Football jerseys, T-shirts, ridiculous long sleeves. We found a really cool fanny pack today. Unfortunately,
too expensive.
I was gonna buy it, but unfortunately, it was $15. And let's be real, I'm cheap as shit. So
$15 at a thrift store is like $60.
Yeah,
like if there's some kind of math to it, that's $60.
You know what?
Thrift store bucks.
The Donovan McNabb Super Bowl jersey was not there.
Someone bought it probably.
There was, for the longest, how long would you say? Like 6 months? 4 to 6 months?
4 to 6 months, yeah.
There was a Donovan McNabb Super Bowl 39 jersey.
Mm-hmm. The one we lost.
Yeah.
That's why I'm confused. Like, if we had won, if that was the Eagles' first Super Bowl in 2004 or 3, I would be like, okay, it was $28, by the way. I would be like, all right, $28. That's a fair price. That was our first Super Bowl, limited edition, but we fucking lost. So it's like, why would anyone pay $28?
And
that's a lot.
I was going to buy it, but once I realized the price wasn't going down and it was stayed at $28
for months.
For months.
And they would move it around the store.
Yeah.
It'd be in different spots.
First it was on there's a rack right when you walk in. That's like, hey, check this shit out,
Yeah.
And then it was on the rack with the normal shirts, like the green shirts or whatever. And we were like, oh, they moved it. Maybe they dropped the price. No, it's still $28. And then the next time we went, it was on an end cap.
This is my favorite one, yeah.
It was an end cap. John was like, we were like, the shirt's sold. No way. And then John goes, oh, man.
Yeah, we thought it sold. And then we were walking around the store. And then 5 minutes later, there it was. It's just hidden, like an Easter egg.
Just chilling out hey, please buy me.
Oh, I wanted it too.
See,
it would have fit both of us. Whoever bought it,
I kind of wanted it because it was like a childhood thing for me because I watched football when McNabb was the quarterback, and he was at the time the franchise quarterback for the Eagles. This is always what happens to us. John's laughing his ass off over here. We had a small technical difficulty. This should no longer be called the Fueled by Coffee podcast. It should just be called the Shit Diaper podcast.
It's just funny because you're just such an actor.
What? No,
he's such an actor.
I had to punch back in, and it basically the first thing I said was he was just the guy. And John was like, what the fuck?
Just because you improv'd it was nice.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to say. But yeah, McNabb at the time was the franchise quarterback. And being a young kid, you're like, oh, that's my team, and he's the leader. And when you're a kid, that's no one looks up to cornerbacks or linebackers. It's the quarterback. That's,
yeah. Until he talks shit about Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and once I started collecting football jerseys, it's I gotta get a McNabb one. And then
I do have a couple McNabb ones too, and I still I kind of don't like him at the moment just because of his attitude, but exactly. I still respect him for what he did though.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great football player. He carried the Eagles to many championship games and through many championship games. But just most recently, this most recent offseason, he was talking all sorts of shit about the current franchise quarterback, Carson Wentz, who is already struggling with, I don't know, maybe finding an identity with the Eagles because of, Foles taking over, and people are questioning whether he can stay healthy or not, and whether he's good enough to lead the Eagles to a championship or something, I guess notable.
Well, I think it's his supporting cast too. I noticed that's a problem with a lot of these young quarterbacks is the team will invest so much in them, but they just can't find the right weapons to utilize the quarterback with. Andrew Luck with the Colts, he was the number 1 overall pick. And
they let him get destroyed because their O-line was trash.
He got hurt a lot. But when he was healthy and he had a couple decent players, he was phenomenal. But he never got to reach his full potential because, unfortunately, the team just didn't have the cap space or just didn't make the right moves in the offseason. And so that's a big thing that happens with some of these what-if kind of players. And I think McNabb kind of said this stuff oh, well, the Eagles should move on from Carson, next year or the next 2 years if he continues down this path. But I also feel a lot of his problems aren't his own. They're not in his control.
Yeah, and I just had this discussion with someone the other night because they were saying about I love Nick Foles. So I was into football as a child, and the Eagles were my team. I played, as I said, the Madden with McNabb on the cover. And I got out of football, I got into different things in middle school and high school. And I was like, I don't need football. I don't need sports. Sports are stupid. And then I remember my mom telling me 2 seasons ago, like, hey, the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. And I was like, no, well, who are they playing? And she said the Patriots. And that was my childhood coming full circle, because I remember watching Super Bowl 39 where they lost to the Patriots.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I got to watch that. And
full circle.
And like the FOLES circle.
FOLES circle, yeah.
And my mom had said all season, because she's a regular follower, she said all season the games were really good. Like a lot of them came down in the last few plays, and it was just a really entertaining season for the Eagles. So I watched the Super Bowl, and I remembered being like, damn, this is a great football game. And I fell in love with the sport all over again. And so since then I've been following the Eagles, not as a bandwagon fan, but just as like, I'm like in my second, I guess, wind of football,
Yeah. But that's good though. I can name 100 things that have happened to me similarly. Like music. I played drums, and my parents got divorced when I was 16, and so I had to move between them, and we moved out of this bigger house where it was its own. It was on its own property, so you could be like decently loud. And I moved into an apartment, and I couldn't play drums. I had to buy an electric drum set, and it just really wasn't the same. And it really, between my personal life and my music life, like it sucked, because I had both my parents going through stuff, which was hard to see, and then my music kind of sucked because I couldn't play drums to the full potential like I had before.
Right.
And so one day I knew how to play guitar, but I was bad because I was self-taught.
Yeah.
So I would play like power chords, if that. And my dad bought me a guitar for no reason. Wasn't my birthday. Wasn't any special occasion. He just knew, because I kept like telling him like, oh, I want a guitar. And I kind of was just hinting at it, just like maybe he could help me pay half, or like, because I was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
And he just bought me one, like a $300 Ibanez, and I fell in love with music all over again. But it was in a different way. It wasn't like drums is more so the back burner, the kind of the rhythm section, and I had never thought about being like a singer or taking lead in a way. I was always kind of like background. I didn't like having the attention on me, but now I kind of have an opposite approach. I like having the attention on me,
because you're like half of a front. You're like half of the front of a band now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think we're kind of like Man Overboard, or we're like Blink-182. We're like, I think Miles sings more than me, but not by much. It's like 60% Miles, 40% John.
Yeah, it's pretty equal.
Yeah, it's almost equal. And because that's my thing, is some people will ask, they'll be like, oh, so you're the backup singer? And I'm like, no, we're both the lead singer. And we're a three-piece, so it kind of works. Like, everyone kind of carries their own weight. Like, Ryan does so much. Like, I don't think people realize how much he does. He really, he plays bass as well, so he has a good understanding of chords and notes and keys. And so when we go through chord progressions or different things, like, he sits down and tells us what he likes, what he doesn't like. He gives us ideas. He writes lyrics. Like, people don't realize that, like, certain drummers really are like so much more than a drummer.
Absolutely.
And so he's definitely like a Travis Barker
fanboy.
No, he does love Travis. I mean, I love Travis Barker. When I was growing up, I wanted to drum like Travis Barker. Ryan has a huge Travis Barker influence, but I just mean that, like, Travis Barker is so much more than a drummer. When you talk about Blink, like, I know you've seen documentaries about, or at least the one movie that they did about their self-title in 2003.
Oh, yeah.
You could see him sit down and, like, I know he was on tour with his other band at the time, so he just laid down drum tracks for them. But when you actually see them write songs, like, he's right in there, like...
Yeah, he's a part of it. He's not just like, okay, guys, let me, play a basic rhythm.
He's not one-dimensional, yeah. So that's what I say. Ryan is, like, a huge part of Food Truck, as we all are, know, but...
So, second wins of football, second wins of music. It's just life. That, it just happens. I still go back and, like, I watch clips from the Super Bowl. Like, the other day someone posted the highlights, and I was like, when I see just, like, the Eagles win, I'm like, I almost cry.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's such a happy thing, and it's just, the fact that me as, like, an individual, it impacted me that much that I was like, I want to watch this sport. And, like, as a kid, you just watch it, and, like, when you're 6, 7, 8 years old, you don't really understand the game other than like touchdowns and first downs. It's just like now, like I watch it and I'm like, I know the penalties, I know the players, I know the positions. It's like
you're more engaged.
You're more engaged, and like for me, I tried to learn as much as I could about the whole game. So,
I'm still learning. I've been a football fan most of my life. I got really into football towards the end of 8th grade, and I've been an avid fan since. And I'm still like, especially because the NFL is always changing with rules and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you can be an expert or at least think you're an expert, but there's always something new or some unknown fact, and it's super interesting.
Absolutely.
And so the Super Bowl, that Super Bowl was probably one of the best games I've ever seen in my life, and I would say it's an honor that it happened to my favorite team, the Eagles, because that could have been ananybody,
It could have been the Vikings with Case Keenum, but we blew them out.
I mean, honestly, it's insane to think that Nick Foles caught a touchdown. Like, just like on 4th down, 4th and goal, like Doug Peterson made that call. Like, it's just everything about the game was just it was like a movie. Like, it was insane. And
absolutely.
I teared up at the end because my whole life I've been waiting for the Eagles to win. And me and my dad embraced each other, gave each other a huge hug. We were both drunk. I got so drunk that night, especially as they went on winning.
Yeah.
There's like more reason to drink. I mean, I guess if they were losing, I would have did the same thing.
Yeah, you would have been like, I hate my life. Kill me.
It would have been
the fact that it was the Patriots. They knocked off like
exactly
the
best
team, franchise of our lifetime.
If it was anybody else, people would have had excuses. They would have been like, oh, well, that penalty helped them and was in their favor, or Nick Foles got lucky, or whatever. But because it was the Patriots,
it was one of the greatest teams that we will ever see play football.
They're still one of the greatest teams. They're still a dynasty, and it's insane to think that like Tom Brady's 40 or and 42 or whatever he is.
Son on the mouth.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised about that. but it's still impressive. As much as I dislike them, it's still like, oh my God.
Yeah, man.
That you can play at that level for that long consistently. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the Super Bowl this year. Like, if they went to another Super Bowl, I don't know about win, but if they just go to another Super Bowl or championship game this year, I will not be surprised at all. Like,
4
it's
years
more
in a row.
likely. Yeah, it's more likely than unlikely, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I'm right here for the Eagles when they finally... I know that they're going to win another Super Bowl. They have to. They just need to give Wentz more...
In our lifetime, I think they will.
More receiving weapons, I think, but that's beside the point. I'm going to cry when they win the Super Bowl second time. I guarantee... Like,
hopefully we'll watch the game together.
That would be sick.
Let's set it up.
We're making a date right now.
We're making a date.
John and I go on dates. So speaking of dates, this is a good segue back into our routine. So we covered the football. We covered grocery shopping. We go to thrift stores and we find... overpriced Donovan McNabb jerseys and other goods, and then we usually finish off. Well, actually, there's 2 more things. We usually go to our favorite diner down the street from John and Easton. Shout out to Williams, please sponsor me.
Yeah, Williams Diner. It's on Williams Penn Highway.
Yeah,
it's super nice. Really, really good service.
Extreme double cheeseburger.
The prices are good. The food's good. I've never ever had bad experience there. I've been going there like 2 years, 3 years, and I take all my friends there. Matt, food truck, anybody. Yeah.
And so we usually go get food then, and we finish off the night by playing Madden for like 4 hours or however long.
It's not Madden 20 because I used to have a PlayStation 3, and I sold it a couple years ago, obviously before PlayStation 4 came out. And so when me and Matt started really bonding again, and he told me that like he likes football now, I was like, I don't know how we got into the Madden experience.
We were at Hellertown Thrift Store on a Wednesday, and we found Madden 04, and John is a huge fan of Michael Vick.
Michael Vick's my all-time favorite player.
I love him too, but that's like John's boy. And
that's
we
my
found
favorite,
Madden 04 for the GameCube, and he's like, oh, let's buy it. So then I brought my GameCube over the next week, and we played it, and then from there it just progressed into John borrowing his sister's Wii. Yep. John bought Madden 07, and then he found out about Madden 08, so now we play Madden.
Yeah, Madden 08 was the last year they made Madden for the Nintendo GameCube.
Yep.
And on Wii you can play GameCube, so we're basically playing GameCube on the Wii.
GameCube is like, in my opinion, probably like one of the greatest systems of all time.
It really is. It set the standard. Like, if you look at Xbox controllers and PlayStation controllers, they're pretty much like Well, I guess you could argue that the Nintendo 64 set the standard, or the Dreamcatcher, whatever it's called.
Nintendo's just always trying different things. Every controller they put out's different, you know.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the Xbox and PlayStation are very, very similar to that Nintendo GameCube controller.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I'm not a gamer, so this is from a novice, but we played Madden, and I like to cheat, so you can tell them about that.
Yeah. So we started out just, you know, playing normal, and we would pick a team, and then we would just like trade some players around to maybe like beef them up a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And then the one week I come over and John's like, "Oh dude, I made the Eagles." And I was like, "No way." And he's like, "Yeah." And he like edited some of the players, so he had like the modern Eagles on Madden 2008.
Yeah, it took me like 3 hours, maybe
and
more.
The thing is like he beefed up a bunch of their stats, so like Carson Wentz is a 99. Deshaun Jackson's a 99.
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson was like 99.
He had last year's running backs, so it was like Darren Sproles and Josh Adams. They're all like 99 overall. And he was like, okay, you can play a game as the Eagles, and then next game I'll play the Eagles. And I was like, okay, that's fair. So then from there we started saying, well, let's just pick a team and just trade a bunch of players around. And like at first we had rules where it's like, okay, you can only have one player that's like 90 overall or better, and like it was pretty fair, and like I'd win some, he would win some. And then it got to the point where like I came over and John's like, "Oh, I made Lamar Jackson." Yeah. And he's like a 90. He had all of his stats turned.
Well, that's
up.
Another player I really, really, really like, because he's so
having a hell
similar.
Of a year.
Yeah, he's gonna be MVP. I'm calling it right now. Just because he's been so consistent and electrifying. But Michael Vick is a fan of Lamar Jackson. That just shows you how amazing of an athlete this guy is. Michael Vick came out and said that Lamar Jackson is just as good as he was in his prime, if not better. To come from the man, the myth himself, to say that. So obviously Michael Vick being my favorite player of all time, I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. And he's on the Ravens, which not really a huge Ravens fan, but I like him.
He makes me like the Ravens
exactly.
a little bit more.
When it was Joe Flacco, like that era, I was not really a fan. But the thing with Michael Vick was obviously he came back from his off the field antics to become an Eagle, which is my team. But Lamar Jackson does make me a little bit of a Ravens fan for sure.
So, he makes Lamar Jackson totally beefed up, totally just whacked out. His team was super good. So then from there, things just spiraled out of control. We picked different teams, and it got to the point where like both of our teams were just 99 overall, and it was just unfair. My main connection is Rex Grossman, he's my franchise quarterback.
Yeah, he was a mediocre kind of like quarterback from the late 90s and early 2000s.
And somehow he just fit like on my Madden team. He
did make some pretty, like, it was weird. And it was almost like divine intervention when this guy played, cuz he wasn't like a crazy statistic. Like, he wasn't a 90 overall.
He was like an 80 something.
Yeah.
And then I had Larry Johnson as my running back, which he was like in the 90s, but it was just I would just throw screen passes to him or normal passes, or like my run game could not be stopped.
Yeah, he had a good run game.
So like, we just beefed up our teams, and it got to the point where like we were creating players, and like I made Cody Parkey and Cody Parkey 2, and Cody Parkey, the field goal kicker, was like a fat short chode, and then Cody Parkey 2 was my punter, and he was like real skinny and tall. And then I had Josh Peck, the infamous quarterback
from Drake and Josh.
He's a big fat just blob with no ass,
but he was a 99 almost everything, right?
And his speed was turned up, so like John, there was no way for him to stop him. I'd get like 40-yard runs with him, and
because he would like take the snap, go through all his progressions, and like my favorite position in football is the defensive back, like corners. And so all my corners are like 99 or just like really, really good. And so he would go down the read progression, and it would be a perfect play on my part. I would have everyone covered, and then he would take off.
Cody Parkey rolls out right.
Yeah.
Runs, yeah.
He would take off, and then there's not much I can do at that point.
That stemmed from me being angry, because angry, I was really annoyed because the one week John was like, "I'm gonna fucking beat you this week," because the week before I think I blew him out. My team, I just picked the Browns. I fucking love the Browns. They're like my second favorite football team.
I like the Browns too.
And like the Browns on Madden are like 4-12 or something like
bad,
that. Something really bad. And so I blew him out the one week. Like, we usually play like 3 or 4 games, 2 to 4 games or something like that. And the next week he was like, oh, I got the Packers. And his team was just like ridiculous. And I was like, come on, man. Like, my team.
Do you remember my starting quarterback?
No.
It's Michael Vick.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, and this is the other thing too. So John, every time his quarterback, John's a great head coach. Every time his quarterback throws a pick, he benches them. So there was at one point in time he had like 8 quarterbacks on his team.
And I actually went through all of them.
And he somehow had enough cap space for that. But
yeah, I don't know how I did that. There's a couple tricks.
Yeah.
You change their position. And, like, let's say you have a quarterback like Rex Grossman who is not athletic but has a great arm, so is a good quarterback. Switch him to halfback or receiver, and his rating will go down to, like, you know, a 20, whereas he was at an 80 as a quarterback. So then his pay, when you cut him, will switch from $20 million a year to, like, less than $1 million.
Yeah.
And so then you sign him, but you switch him, and it puts you in a negative cap, but he's already in your team because you found the loophole.
There's like nothing it can do about it.
Yeah, so I think that's probably what I did.
So that was John's system for a while, and
it worked.
I mean, it worked, yeah, and like we had fun. We just had fun with that whole thing, and now it just got to the point where it was so ridiculous. We were like getting frustrated with each other because it wasn't fair. And like, so now we're back to basics. We have a new memory card, resetting the rosters, and we're just going to keep it equal.
Yeah, I kept the old memory card,
just for
dusted it off,
shits and
put it on the
giggles.
shelf. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun. Madden is fun, especially the old ones.
Even the old ones, yeah, exactly. Because Matt owns Madden 2020, and so I went over to his house a couple weeks ago, and you know, I don't have any new consoles, so it's my first experience playing like a brand new Madden.
Yeah.
In, you know, 5 years or something. And it's phenomenal. Like, the graphics are insane, and it was a lot of fun. But I had just as much fun.
Yeah.
As I did with Madden 08.
And we make our own fun. You know, you get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's our routine: football, groceries, thrift stores, diners, Madden, and it's just fun. We have a great time. But unfortunately, we are out of time. We have gone over the 30-minute, but you know what? This was fun, and I'm sure you're going to be here again because I still have stuff on the list we could talk about.
Absolutely.
But
who's next, though? That's the real question.
I'm going to try and get Jack on next.
Yeah, our good friend Jack Wakely.
He is... I have a feeling we're going to talk about books, and one thing he and I talked about, we want to conversate about, is Charles Bukowski. John and I love him. Jack loves him.
I'm a big fan for sure.
So we're going to talk about him, and I want to try and get Jack into some conspiracy theories because he is into some weird stuff. But I mean, hopefully he'll be next. Then there will be a 2-part episode with an old coworker of mine. We're going to talk about our time working for a company known as Peapod. That was where I spent I have lots of memories. I used to work at BJ's,
which is, you know,
it's
like a mile down the street. Yeah. And so I used to drop off notes on his car because he would work when I worked, but I would get out like a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was so hilarious.
I have the one hanging in my wall, the diaper ass, what a crime.
Yeah. So he has a green BMW.
Yeah.
Super nice car. It's a 2000 BMW, so it's like a classic body, and so like you can't mistake it. Like I know it's his car, so I would like pull up after work and I'd like leave him little notes. Yeah, and like I would try to like make it weird.
Sweet. You're such a sweet boy.
I would try to make it weird so he wouldn't know it was me.
Yeah. Well, the one time so the diaper ass thing, real quick, we wrote a diss song about a couple of my coworkers from Peapod. Very. Yeah, it's
just like a silly, like
just a weird. Yeah, it was like a silly diss, and the one line was "diaper ass, what a crime." And so the one day I came out, and there was this note on my windshield, and it said something about Best Buy on the other side of the sheet, and I was like, did someone think I stole something? Or what the hell? And then I look at it and I'm like, oh man, diaper ass, what a crime. So now I hung that up because it's such a
I wanted him to think it was me as the coworker, and I was like blackmailing him.
But John has the handwriting of a 4-year-old, so that's how I was able to tell.
I do. I have really, really bad handwriting, and today I just got a new credit card, and
here we go.
I had to sign the back because that's how you like authorized or
you,
verified, which makes no sense because if you're a criminal, you could just fucking scribble on the back.
But then if they ask to see your ID, then it doesn't match up.
I don't know. But basically, I scribbled and I realized that, like, I don't know how to write in cursive. Like, my signature for the past 10 years has just been, like, John, correctly cursive.
Yeah.
But the last name has not been anything close to Mackey, which is my last name. It's been, like, I've been trying to read it, like, as if I didn't know what it said. And it looks like it says Mach, like M-A-C-H, Mach. And I'm like, wow, that's funny. Like, when people see my name, they must be like, oh, is this John Mach? Or John Moch? Or John something like that? John Mack? And I realized I don't even write the E or the Y. Like, I kind of just stop after, like, C or K. I just kind of, like, give up.
Yeah. So, basically, we're going to try and get Jack, and then there's going to be I guarantee it's going to be 2 parts, because Mike and I could probably talk for like an hour about Peapod.
I would assume, yeah, because
he spent 5 years there. He was there from opening until he left in 2018. I was there.
Wait, they opened?
In 2013, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know it was that new of a thing. It makes sense, though.
And I was there for about almost 2.5 years. That was my first real job, and you'll hear all about it when he and I talk about it. That will be a really, really fun episode. But anyways, this is Fueled by Coffee, episode 2, here with my friend John. John, I appreciate you chatting with me here tonight.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
And we'll do this again.
Hopefully.
We will, I guarantee
If I make it.
You will. All right, man. Thank you.
All right, see ya.